You've been broadcasting your weakness to everyone around you for years. Your boss knows, your friends know, even strangers can spot it within 30 seconds of meeting you. There's a psychological test that reveals someone's deepest weakness in under 30 seconds. And the person being tested never realizes what just happened. It's terrifying. Once you know this test, you'll see it everywhere. In your boss, your friends, and even yourself. 3 months ago, I discovered something that changed how I see people forever. It started when I found classified documents from a Fortune 500 CEO's private psychology consultant, documents that were never meant to be public. What I found inside wasn't just shocking. It was a complete blueprint for psychological manipulation that's been used by the world's most powerful people for centuries. If you want to learn the dark psychology secrets that billionaires pay millions to keep hidden, hit that subscribe button right now, because what I'm about to show you could change your entire life. But I need to warn you about something first. The man who created this system didn't just study weakness, he weaponized it. His name was Niccolò Machiavelli, and he discovered something that modern psychology has only recently confirmed. Every person has a psychological tell that reveals their deepest insecurity within seconds of meeting them. And once you spot these tells, you don't just gain an advantage, you gain complete psychological control over that person, without them ever knowing. But here's where it gets dark. Machiavelli realized that there are exactly 3 behaviors that instantly expose someone's weakness. And these aren't obvious things like fidgeting or avoiding eye contact. These are subtle psychological patterns that even confident people display without realizing it. The first behavior is so common that you've probably done it in the last 24 hours. And if you have, you've unknowingly signaled to everyone around you that you can be controlled. I'm talking about something Machiavelli called the weakness confession. And it happens when someone does this one thing that seems completely normal. But before I reveal what it is, I need you to think about the last time you had to explain a decision you made. Really think about it. How many times did you repeat yourself? How detailed did you get? Because what you're about to learn might make you realize you've been confessing your weakness to everyone around you your entire life. First behavior, the over-justifier. Here's the brutal truth. Weak people explain, strong people decide. Machiavelli spent years studying the most powerful courts in Renaissance Italy, and he noticed something chilling. The princes who commanded real respect spoke very little. But the advisors, the merchants, the people pretending to have power, they talked constantly. They needed others to agree with their logic so they could feel sure of it themselves. This is what Machiavelli called over-justification, and it's the #1 tell that someone can be psychologically controlled. Think about it. When you constantly defend your choices, over-explain your actions, or try to make others understand your reasoning, you're not being thorough, you're being insecure. You're essentially begging for permission to exist. And here's what's terrifying. The people listening to you, they can sense it. They might not consciously realize what's happening, but their subconscious is screaming, "This person needs my approval. This person is weak." Comment below if you've ever caught yourself doing this. Have you ever explained a decision way more than necessary? Because recognizing this pattern in yourself is the first step to stopping it. But over-justification is just the surface level. The second behavior Machiavelli identified is far more dangerous because it disguises itself as a virtue. Quote, second behavior, weaponized niceness. This one is going to sting because 90% of people do this without realizing how weak it makes them look. Machiavelli discovered that the most spineless people didn't always look afraid. They looked friendly, helpful, accommodating. But it wasn't kindness. It was submission disguised as virtue. Here's the difference. A strong person can be kind, but their kindness is selective and deliberate. They're never kind at the cost of their self-respect. A weak person tries to be agreeable at all times. They agree to avoid tension. They compliment to be liked. They stay quiet when they should speak. They apologize not because they're wrong, but because they're scared. And when being nice doesn't earn them validation, when their weaponized kindness fails, they flip. They become bitter, sarcastic, passive-aggressive. Because their niceness was never kindness. It was a strategy to avoid rejection. Machiavelli wrote, "A prince must know how to do wrong and not use it unless compelled." In other words, restraint isn't the same as fear. But weaponized niceness? That's always fear. It's the posture of someone who doesn't know how to stand tall on their own, so they try to stay small, hoping no one steps on them. If you recognize this behavior in yourself, drop a comment and let me know, because awareness is the first step to transformation. But there's a third behavior that's even more desperate, more exposed, and utterly humiliating to witness. And when you see it, you'll know you're standing in front of someone who fears being insignificant more than anything else. Quote, third behavior, display addiction. This behavior is everywhere in our social media age, and it's the most pathetic form of weakness Machiavelli ever documented. He called it display addiction, the compulsive need to be seen, recognized, and validated by others. You know these people. They can't sit still without recognition. They post constantly, speak loudly, exaggerate every win, and turn every moment into a performance. But here's what Machiavelli understood that most people still don't. The person who needs to be seen fears being forgotten. And that fear? It's not just weakness, it's identity rot. Display addiction isn't confidence. It's the panic response of someone who has no internal foundation. They think if they aren't being talked about, liked, praised, or envied, then they don't matter. Their value disappears the moment attention does. This is why Machiavelli saw these people as liabilities. They'll do anything for attention. Lie, embellish, betray. They'll expose secrets, turn on allies, make enemies out of thin air as long as someone is watching. Because in their mind, silence means death. Stillness means irrelevance. And here's the most brutal part. If you want to completely destroy someone with display addiction, you don't need to attack them. You just ignore them. Take away the spotlight, cut off the applause, make them feel invisible. Watch how quickly they break. Have you ever noticed this pattern in someone you know? Or maybe in yourself? Let me know in the comments, because what I'm about to reveal next will show you how to use these behaviors to gain psychological control over anyone. But here's where Machiavelli's genius becomes truly terrifying. He didn't just identify these behaviors to avoid weak people. He identified them to control weak people. See, most people react to weakness with frustration or disgust, but Machiavelli, he reacted with strategy. Because once you know someone's emotional fault line, you don't need to argue with them. You don't need to fight them. You just guide them. Like a puppeteer pulling strings from behind the curtain. He understood something critical. The weak person wants to be led. They just don't want to feel controlled. So Machiavelli gave them exactly what they craved. Praise when they felt ignored. Agreement when they felt insecure. Flattery when they needed validation. Not because he respected them, but because he saw how easily they could be shaped. This is where his true power came from. He didn't force anyone to obey him. He made them obey themselves by offering just enough emotional candy to keep them addicted to his approval. Here's how it worked. For the over-justifier, the person who needed to explain everything, Machiavelli would listen. He'd nod, make eye contact, say, "That makes perfect sense." Instantly, that person would attach themselves to Machiavelli, craving more validation. For the weaponized nice person, he'd give them a job, make them feel chosen, let them feel safe, and they would never betray him. Not because of loyalty, but because betrayal would mean losing their fragile identity. For the display addict, he'd offer them the stage, let them speak in meetings, let them take credit for ideas that served his goals, give them the illusion of power while he held the real control. What you're witnessing here is psychological engineering at its finest. And the terrifying part, it works on almost everyone. Now I know what you're thinking. This is dark. This is manipulation. And you're right. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Someone is always going to use these techniques. The question is, will it be you or will it be someone else using them on you? Because right now, as you're watching this video, there are people in your life who have already identified your weaknesses. Your boss might be using your need for approval to get you to work longer hours. Your friends might be exploiting your people-pleasing tendencies. The difference between you and them, they learned these patterns. You're just now discovering them. If you're starting to see these patterns in your own life, if you're recognizing how you've been controlled or how you could control others, smash that like button and subscribe right now. Because what I'm about to reveal next is how to become completely immune to psychological manipulation. But first, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be honest in the comments. Which of these three behaviors do you recognize in yourself? Over-justification, weaponized niceness, display addiction? Because here's what Machiavelli discovered that will change everything. Machiavelli feared one thing more than being overthrown by enemies: being betrayed by weakness within himself. See, weakness isn't just something you spot in others. It's something you must hunt within yourself every single day. Because it doesn't arrive in obvious forms. It sneaks in through over-explaining, through the need to be liked, through craving applause. Machiavelli developed a system, a way to detect weakness the moment it whispered in his own mind. First, he watched how he explained himself. When you're strong, you make decisions. When you're weak, you explain them. Every time he started talking too much, he'd ask, "Is this conviction or a plea for acceptance?" Second, he tested how often he said yes. A weak yes can ruin everything. He learned to pause before every agreement and ask, "Would I say yes if I didn't fear losing their approval?" Third, he measured how silence felt. Weak people hate silence. They rush to fill it. But Machiavelli made silence his weapon. When it felt tense, he leaned into it. Fourth, he resisted unnecessary exposure. The weak always want to be seen. The strong choose when. He practiced invisibility until every piece was in position. This isn't just about becoming powerful. This is about becoming unbreakable. Because when you remove every trace of weak behavior in yourself, you become something the world cannot ignore. You don't chase respect, you become the source of it. Drop a comment below if you're ready to start this transformation. Are you ready to hunt down your own weaknesses before the world uses them against you? Here's the ultimate Machiavellian secret that separates true power from fake power. Respect isn't demanded, it's not asked for, and it's definitely not begged for, it's engineered. The highest form of respect, the kind that doesn't fade in your absence, the kind that silences a room before you speak, comes from mastering what weak people fear most. Weak people fear discomfort. They fear being misunderstood. They fear being disliked. They fear standing alone. But the Machiavellian person, they embrace it. They don't run from tension, they walk into it. They don't collapse under judgment, they sharpen under it. When you kill the instinct to justify, when you stop seeking applause, when you remove every trace of fear-driven behavior, you become something unsettling to the average person, something untouchable. And that's exactly why people begin to respect you. Not because you speak louder, not because you seem nice, but because you reveal nothing. And that terrifies them. It's human nature. We fear what we cannot figure out. So when you walk into a room and don't need to prove anything, when you hold your posture while others flinch, when your silence feels heavier than their best words, you change the dynamic. You don't chase respect. You become the source of it. Here's your final challenge. For the next 7 days, I want you to practice the Machiavellian silence test. Every time you feel the urge to over-explain, to seek approval, or to perform for attention, stop. Say nothing. Do nothing. Just observe. Watch how people's behavior changes around you. Watch how your own inner dialogue shifts. Because what you'll discover will terrify you. You'll realize how much of your daily behavior has been driven by weakness. How many times you've unknowingly confessed your insecurities to the world. But more importantly, you'll start to see the invisible puppet strings that others have been using to control you your entire life. If you're ready to cut those strings forever, subscribe to this channel right now and hit the notification bell. Because next week, I'm releasing a video that reveals the 3 phrases that instantly make anyone respect you. Phrases so powerful that saying them wrong can destroy your reputation forever. But saying them right, they can change your life in a single conversation. The question is, are you strong enough to handle that kind of power? Drop a comment below and let me know. Which weakness are you going to eliminate first? And don't lie, I'll know. Remember, the weak reveal themselves through their words. The strong reveal themselves through their silence. Which one are you?